Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Callan-Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning, in case you're just tuning in for the first time. It is a live call-in show because we pick a topic that, I'm sure will affect quite a few of you out there in some way or another. And we talk about it. We invite you to call in and ask questions regarding that because this show is about helping you live a healthier lifestyle. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. This morning we're talking about something that actually the United States is not first in, but it's in the top 5.
We're real close.
Real close.
Right, real close.
And that's childhood obesity. And the rates are going up every year.
It's went up quite a bit since when you look at the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. It's up a lot. It used to be, I think, 4% of the kids were obese back then, and now it's,
why?
It depends on, why? Diet, inactivity, not getting off the couch, getting on computers. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to is what they do. But diet, we see, when you hear people say, oh my gosh, what their kids eat. Oh, well, they only like this. Well, if you're going to only feed them that, they are going to have health issues. They are going to be overweight, and they are going to have problems down the road. It isn't just about what you look like. It's about what it's going to cause down the road.
That's the key, really, is, when you look at healthcare in America today, we're overwhelmed anyhow, to begin with. And we've got the highest rate of obesity just about in the world as far as the adult population. Mm-hmm. And we know that, we've got all these chronic conditions like fatty liver disease, and it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease for various reasons. But one, the people that are developing that, and they don't even know they've got it. It's one of those things. It's the fastest growing chronic condition we have, and it's caused by diet. Because everybody you talk to that's been diagnosed with it, what did they tell you to do? Lose weight. Did they tell you how to lose weight? No, they just said lose weight, because there's not a pill for it, in other words. There's absolutely no pill that can reverse fatty liver. It's diet. And we're seeing that even in young kids. We're seeing the children develop, high triglycerides. That's one of the first signs of developing fatty liver.
We've even seen the kids that already have high liver enzymes because they are developing fatty liver.
Yeah.
We see, we actually are doing more and more lab work on kids. And that's one reason why we decided to do this show, because people are bringing their kids in because they're having issues or they're tired and they're tired all the time. And, stuff you always hear from the adults, but we're hearing it from the kids. And when you do their lab work, they're pre-diabetic, diabetic, fatty liver, fat enzymes already elevated, high triglycerides. So you're already seeing these problems in kids. And so that's why we decided to do it, because even though, like I said, we are not number one as a whole in Mississippi as kids of all ages, but when it comes to high school kids, we're number one.
Yeah, really.
And it's up to 23.4% of all high school kids in the state of Mississippi are obese.
Not just overweight.
That's not overweight.
Just obese.
That's
they are
obese.
Yeah.
So, you look at the diets. That's the measure. Back when we were kids, we didn't have all these fast food chains that mom and dad ran us through all the time just to appease us and all that. You came home, mom had a nice home-cooked meal ready for you, and or she was getting it ready. Until then, your parents were like, or your dad was like, okay, go out in the yard and play.
Yeah.
You weren't sitting there in front of a TV with the little thing going on or on your telephone.
Have you fed the cows? Have you fed the chickens? Have you done this? Have you done that? Okay.
Go out and bush hog that back 40 back there.
We got it. Yeah. Well, kids don't do that now. Especially, and it's unfortunate. It's just kind of a sign of the times. The phone that everybody carries, and everybody's got one. They all have the smartphones. I had a couple of friends who held out as long as they could because they didn't want a smartphone. They didn't want one of those old dumb phones, flip phones. Well, they finally fall apart, and okay, I got to upgrade. And then they realize you've got a computer that could probably land a man on the moon, in your palm of your hand.
Right.
And of course, there's the bazillion things you can do. And of course, now we have things like the kids are fascinated with TikTok, et cetera, and the influencers. And I think if you just look at our culture and our society, we're kind of messed up, and somehow we have to, it's really the parent, I think, unfortunately, it's back to us as parents. We have to say, okay, you're got to do something different. We don't want you just to go down this road, because if you take a kid that's now developed, and we're seeing this younger and younger. Used to, back when I was in school, rocks were cooling off and all that, but back then, these were late adult problems, like 60s, 70s. We'd see diabetes, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Now we're seeing it in kids. And especially now that we know more about it. We know more about how to determine and diagnose the pre-diabetes, the metabolic syndrome. And it's just exploded in the past 10 years. I mean, exploded. And to the point now where, like I say, the medical community is overwhelmed, and they're bracing because they know down the road, and it's not going to be that far,
it's going to get even worse.
These kids grow up and be adults, and then boom, it's going to hit us like a brick wall, because they don't know how to handle it now, and medically. I mean, it's just, they're overwhelmed. And so 10 years down the road, when these kids become young adults, and they've got all these late adult problems, your workforce falls apart because they can't work, because they've got so many health problems, or they have difficulty working, and it costs them. The cost is staggering.
It is.
The cost of healthcare, and the latest statistics you can get, and I don't blame them for not getting these statistics out faster, because they're scary. So the CDC and all those guys, they don't want you to have these statistics too early. They'll wait at least a couple of years. So over 2 years ago, the latest statistic you can come up with as far as healthcare expenditures in America, over $4 trillion. $4 trillion. Not billion, not million, trillion. I don't even know how many zeros that's got, but it's a bunch. And so, if we were spending over $4 trillion 2-3 years ago, 5 years down the road, just think what it's going to be. Kind of scary.
Yeah, and most of these statistics that we're talking about were done a few years back, so we don't even know if they're higher now. We're seeing a lot.
I'm sure they are.
Well, I'm sure
we're seeing a lot just because we are in Mississippi, and of course Mississippi is even worse than the rest of the country, but we do see a lot of it already.
Yeah. What's the youngest you've seen in someone being diabetic?
Now type 1 and type 2 are totally different stories.
Right.
You'll see type 1 diabetes in young kids, and that's actually totally normal. Not normal, but it ain't normal, but it happens because that's pancreatic failure, usually due to a virus or something like that. Type 2 is what we're talking about, which is from diet. And we're seeing maybe an 8-year-old.
Wow.
Yep.
That's scary. All right, we're talking about childhood obesity this morning. If you have any questions, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're talking about childhood obesity. How do you tell if a kid is obese?
Well, for one, you can calculate the BMI, the body mass index. And there's calculators all over the internet or on your phone like we were talking about. You can go, you put in your height and your weight, and there is a formula that is used. And the formula, it just gets a little bit harder because it is your height in kilograms.
No.
Yeah.
Weight in kilograms.
Weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. So
yeah,
yes.
right.
So it's
don't
easier.
Get the calculator, right?
Just go put your height and weight in a calculator, and it gives you your BMI.
Yeah.
BMI, anything over 30 is considered to be obesity. Anything between 25 and 30 tends to be overweight. So that way you can see, are you overweight? Are you obese? Where do you fall on the scale?
Yeah.
And yes, there's some problems with BMI. People will say, well, I'm more muscle and I don't fit in that scale. Well, yeah, it gives you an idea. Can't say it's the end all of everything, but that is the way that you see, and that's what it's gauging on, and all these statistics that we're using, that's what it's based on, is BMI. Yes.
I feel like I'm a little overweight, but I feel like I'm obese.
You probably, I don't know what your BMI, but you'd probably be a little on the overweight.
If you just go to the seat, just put in BMI calculator in any search engine.
There's so many of them.
And they will just, the CDC's got them. Gosh, everybody's got them. And they'll just cover you. And you can just simply put in your height, your weight, boom. And they got one for children, they got one for adults.
Now, people think as far as obesity, childhood obesity or any kind of obesity, that it's because this person just can't push themselves away from a dinner table. But are there certain health issues that can lead to childhood obesity?
Well, I mean, there's always certain medications that can actually increase the risk. I mean, there's no doubt, and so that can be a factor. But in the majority of the people, I would say it is what they're eating.
Mm-hmm.
We
talk about that all the time.
May not be the quantity.
No,
It may just
and
be
sometimes
what.
it is the quantity. If you think about it nowadays, how do you make a kid be quiet? You hand them something to eat. And so you do, and you watch, that's what people are doing from the time somebody's a baby. And so you learn to be pacified with food. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the world's a stressful place, no doubt. And there's no doubt that stress definitely tends to make it worse, because one of the problems is cortisol's high.
Right.
That will definitely, and we're seeing high cortisol in kids like we've never seen before. Almost every kid that we check has high cortisol. I can't say
Stress.
all, but a lot. Huh?
They're stressed out.
Stressed.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are stressed.
Yeah.
And part of it is, the lifestyle and the computers and the age that we're in. But they don't get out and play like they should. They don't, have the activity that they used to. So that does make a difference.
And I'm sure, as they're going along, more and more of the kids are seeing the stuff that's going on in the world, which stresses them out.
Like I said, it's a stressful time for everybody. But kids really are. We're seeing it worse in kids than adults. I mean, we have a lot of adults with high cortisol too, but we're seeing it in kids a lot. Mm-hmm. So if you can't control the stress, and then they stress eat. They stress eat just like adults do. And if they get to where they're very picky and they only eat certain foods and they eat a lot of it, and then they snack on chips and cookies and, all constantly, I mean, snacking, it definitely does you in too.
He's
you're
shying away over
I'm kind of hiding away over here because
Yeah.
one of my things is like on the weekend, an afternoon snack is some potato chips and French onion dip.
Okay, well that's probably not the best thing for.
No, probably. But I don't eat a lot of it. I mean, I don't sit there and eat a whole bag.
Yeah.
I'll just eat a little bit and then put them back up. But it's just kind of I like that little salty.
Yeah.
Thing
You
in
just
the
find
afternoon.
a little bit different things to eat is the thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what people need to get back more to the real food.
Right.
I think our food supply, and we've talked about this ad infinitum, about a food supply and how bad it is for us, and the ingredients they're putting in there. Put in a lot of sugars because sugar makes cardboard taste good, and otherwise a lot of the stuff that you're getting in a prepackaged food probably pretty close to cardboard as far as taste.
Yeah.
If you didn't put some sugar with it, who wants to eat that stuff? So they put a lot of sugars and things in it. And today I think there's 61 different names they have for sugar that we can hide in food. So in other words, you just pick up a package, it don't have any sugar in it. Well, does it have? And you can go through that list of 61 different names for things that are sugar, basically. And it's got all that in it. It's all over the place. So it's about the food supply, how bad it is for us. Again, go back to when Tabor and I were kids. There wasn't even a McDonald's when I was a kid, okay? I mean, I remember I was probably a late teenager when the first time I ever saw a fast food.
And that's the thing is the kids now are starting at such young ages because it's been around their whole lives.
It's all they think.
So their whole lives they've eaten it. To where before, somebody in your age group and even my age group, I mean, we didn't start eating it till later.
Right.
And I mean, you just did your BMI.
I just did my BMI while I was off camera here, and my BMI is 27.9.
Okay, you're in
real
the
close.
overweight.
You're overweight, but you're just not quite there.
Overweight's between 25 and 30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's 27.9.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my age and my weight and everything. So
Yep.
easy to do.
So you definitely now. We did ours this morning, just kind of looking. His is 18.4. He's a hair underweight. Mine's 22 point something, which is normal.
Normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So normal weight.
Yeah.
So we do keep our BMIs down, but we do eat differently than most people. Most people would watch what we eat and say, that's all you're going to eat.
Yeah.
We try to eat less food. It's not just, yes, we eat the right foods, but we also eat less of it. You can't just eat all you want of something.
Quantity does play a big role in it, even if it's something that's good for you.
Yeah, and you feel better when you don't eat as much. It's less the body has to process, it's less the body has to do.
Right.
And so people just eat too much food,
Right.
I think, in general. And the bad thing is a lot of it comes from the parents. The parents are overeating and eating the wrong food, so the kids do it. And so when we have people come in and are worried about the weight of their kid, the first thing I say is the whole family has to change, because you can't eat it and tell them they can't.
Yeah,
so you can't do that.
That's one of the biggest problems with kids, and we see this with the parents that come in, bring their children in. You know, we find a problem in the child, and of course, you know, we're telling them, so okay, you have to change the child's diet, what they intake, and you can just almost see this look come over that adult. Does that mean I'm going to have to quit eating that stuff? Well, you're setting an example for Junior, so I would suggest it, and because that's how they learn. They learn from us, and so we have to be the one that teaches them.
Lead by example.
Exactly.
Lead by example.
All right, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open, talking about childhood obesity this morning. It's 17 minutes after 9 o'clock. We'll take a break and be back with this week's special and our final break. And welcome back to our final segment. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's go ahead and give you the special for this week. It's a weight loss panel.
We're going to do the weight loss panel. We have a lot of people that come in. That way you can bring your kid in. We can do the weight loss panel, which is one of the panels that we do. It does check the cortisol. We mentioned the stress hormone. It does do all your sugar levels. It checks your insulin. It checks the 3-month average. It checks your spot sugar. It does your lipids, your triglycerides, your cholesterol. I mean, it does the kidney function, liver function, and then it does some of your vitamins that do play a role in not being able to lose weight. And then it does 4 different tests on thyroid. So it does a lot and we are seeing thyroid issues sometimes in younger kids too. So that is one of the things that can play a role. Like you said, what conditions can make a difference? Well, the high cortisol can make a difference. The thyroid problems can make a difference. And I have the question often on why are we seeing more thyroid issues? And it's because we live in an environment of endocrine disruptors.
Well, we do.
Yes.
That's like not just one show. That's a whole series of shows. Yeah. Because you know your PFAS, and look that one up. PFAS. Just go Google that one. And they're called forever chemicals because they stay in the environment forever. You know, so that's one, and they disrupt our endocrine system, which is our hormones of all kinds, not just sex hormones.
Your sex hormones, your thyroid hormones, your adrenal hormones, your sleep, melatonin, which is a sleep hormone.
Yeah.
I mean, it does a lot of hormones. So when you come to, and that messing up hormones as a whole can definitely make weight gain and can make it harder to lose. So we do check a lot of those things and see where you are. And it does also do like your vitamin D and your B12 and your folate and your magnesium and a lot of the things that can affect the attention deficit in kids as well. Because when you start getting all these other health issues, they're going to not pay attention as well, and their brains are not going to be able to function as well. So that all plays a role.
Wow.
Yep.
So what eventually happens to a child that's obese?
Well,
they end up having severe health issues.
Yeah. They end up being either disabled, diabetic. They can have liver and kidney problems.
Yep.
The list is just long. It depends on how it affects that particular person, because all of us are a little different genetically, but depending on their genes.
Even heart attacks and strokes are in younger ages.
Right.
So,
we're seeing much younger problems with heart attacks and strokes.
Yep.
And I had. Not just recently, talked to a gentleman talked to his wife. He was 20-something, 28, something like that, had a stroke.
Yeah, we've had more and more people.
Wow.
You normally think that much later in life, but we're seeing a lot of those kind of things.
Well,
that's why it's so important to change it.
I've been having, hearing lately some, young people, and I say young, 40s and 50s, dropping dead of a heart attack.
Yes.
Right.
It's going to get younger and younger, I think, as you see these problems, because what is one of the biggest risks for heart disease? Diabetes and pre-diabetes. And we're seeing the pre-diabetes in these young kids. So once they've been like that if they start at 10, by the time they're 30, it's been 20 years. So that's a long time to have the problem, and so they're going to start having problems at younger ages. I mean, that's what I think. And that's what we're just seeing. We used to never, 20 years ago, because we've been doing this a long time. We've been doing it for
27 years.
27 years. We didn't see that much then, really, in the kids. And, we didn't see as many kids because they didn't have as many problems.
The lifestyle's changed.
Yeah. A lot.
In over 27 years, a lot.
So a lot. Yeah. So we are seeing a lot of difference.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of things change, and the sad part about it is, and everybody thinks, well, I've got insurance. Big deal. If you've got a failing liver, I don't care if you got insurance, best insurance in the world, you got a failing liver.
Got burial insurance.
Right, exactly. And the thing about it is, everybody says, well, medicine will take care of us. Unfortunately, and this is an unfortunate situation, medicine doesn't have the capability of really doing anything about these things. Like fatty liver, there's not a pill for it. The only treatment is lose weight. It's up to you. So it's back to us as individuals, as parents and grandparents. It's up to us to say, okay, I got to take care of myself, and I want to take care of my child and my grandchild or whatever.
Yeah.
You want to do that, and it's up to us to accept that responsibility to say, okay, I've got to do whatever I got to do.
Right, and it's time to start changing. I mean, I don't know, it can keep getting worse, but then what's going to happen? And like we said before, we think the medical system is overwhelmed now.
Yeah.
From what we hear, to get appointments is taking forever. They're going to be real overwhelmed when these kids start hitting adulthood and they start having the real issues. And so that's why we decided to do this show and let people know you got to change now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the more that's ingrained in their brain, their patterns, the harder it is to change. So you start when they're little. If you start seeing it at 2 and 3 years old, which the studies have shown, that's age you are seeing an increase in little kids. Start changing what they do now because they're the ones that's the most impressionable.
Yeah.
And so you got to change it before it gets to be more severe.
And I think we need to.
And there's no doubt diet and inactivity. I mean, that you can really go down to that.
Yeah, run them out in the backyard.
Yep.
Just like we used to. You get home, run them out in the backyard. So go play. Get a bunch of friends together, play ball.
Yeah.
Play tag. Tag, you're it.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do outside, and we do need the activities. And I think the schools have kind of let us down. I don't think the physical activity is near as what it was.
Well, a lot of schools have cut out PE.
They've cut out PE.
They've started bringing some of it back in some schools, but the PE definitely has gotten different than when we were there.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's a lot of things culturally that have happened, and then as far as the economics of it, the food supply. People tend to rely, because of the stress and so on in the world today, and because of both parents working and whatever, they tend to want to say, well, okay, well, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Well, I'll stop somewhere. I'll stop somewhere and get something. And that's now that we're back to that fast food, packaged processed food. So we really don't get the quality of nutrition that we need, and you can't control what's in it because.
Idea? Teach your kids how to cook.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Teach your kids how to cook, because in the long run, years from now, it would come in handy because
I cooked as a teenager.
Yeah. Well, I'll confess, I didn't.
I did.
I had to do a couple of things, but I didn't really learn how to start cooking until I.
So you got hungry?
Well, that too, but learn how to boil water and everything. But now I think I'm a pretty good chef, especially since I'm a bachelor and I cook for myself.
Yeah.
I know I can do a mean steak in an air fryer, I can tell you that. What's next week?
Next week we're going to be talking about something kind of related, and it's called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It is caused by sugar handling issues, and it's in a lot of your young girls. And so you're seeing a lot more PCOS, and you don't have to be overweight to have PCOS.
No.
Now that's kind of one of the things people are like, oh, well, I'm not overweight. Well, it doesn't matter. I've seen some little skinny girls with PCOS. So it still comes from sugar, though.
Yep.
All right. Be sure you tune in next week. Find more information, of course, on their Facebook page and at doctorsnutrition.com. Have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll see you back next Monday morning again on Doctor's Nutrition Show.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.